I have been using the 2021 iPad Pro for just over 6 months. In today's video, we're gonna talk about what I love about it, what I don't like about it, and what I wish I had known before I had purchased it. I am Mike Caputo, and welcome back to Tech 24/7 TV. The new iPad Pro delivers an unparalleled computing experience thanks to its tight integration with iPadOS. The iPad Pro is capable of outshining tablets from competitors, and really it even outperforms some of Apple's own laptops because it blends the best of both worlds. You have power and efficiency that's traditionally associated with a mobile device, as well as the performance that you get from a desktop whenever you need it. Now, let's be honest, it is certainly not perfect. Now, if you've been wondering if the 2021 iPad Pro is worth purchasing, whether you're upgrading from an existing device, or you want to purchase it brand new, or you're just curious whether or not it's actually a good tablet, you are in the right place, because in today's video, I'm going to talk about my usage over the past 6 months with this device and tell you whether or not you should purchase it. Let's get started. Now, today's video is broken out into different sections or review contexts, and you'll find each of those contexts linked right below the like button. Now, you are here to find out whether the 2021 iPad Pro, which is probably the most powerful tablet that's available today on the market, if it's worth purchasing. My 6-month review is not a deep dive into the specs of the 2021 iPad Pro. Really, you can find those on Apple's website, and I'll link them down below for your convenience. Instead, after 6 months, I'll be sharing some of my real-world usage experiences with my thoughts about various aspects of owning such a high-end product that Apple offers, as well as where I'd like to see the tablet go. This is the 2021 iPad Pro and is powered by Apple's 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU M1 chip. This is the same M1 chip that you find in the 13-inch MacBook Pro, the 13-inch Mac Mini, 13-inch MacBook Air, and the 2020 Mac Mini. Now, my configuration, I have 1 terabyte of internal storage, I have 16 gigs of RAM, and this here is the 5G version. Now, you can get it in Wi-Fi only for $17.99, or as configured, this will cost you $1,999. Now, if you want to, you can add on the Magic Keyboard and the Apple Pencil 2, which is $350 and $130 respectively. Now, I think these are really much essential accessories for this device. If you want to be productive on it, these are 2 things I would really consider. Now, I do have some comments about the Magic Keyboard and how the white version has held up after 6 months of daily usage, so make sure you stay tuned for that coming up. Again, depending on what your appetite is for paying this additional money, you could even reuse the Magic Keyboard that you have from the 2018 to the 2020 iPad Pro, which I do have, and it does work. There's a little bit of a gap when you close it, but it's not like it's necessarily non-functional. It works exactly as expected, but it's really just more personal preference if you want to continue to use that. Now, before we get in the next section, if you like this type of content where I re-review products, at set intervals, 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months out, let me know that by hitting the like button on this video, which obviously will help me understand what type of content that I should make for you going forward. And if you want to be part of the community where we review iPad, talk about productivity and how you can be more productive with your iPad, join the community, hit subscribe button right down there, and let me know how I can help you be productive in 2022. Now, the storage configurations are available either at 128, 256, 512. Now, those storage configurations come with 8 gigs of RAM, or you can opt for the 1 terabyte version like I have, or even there's a 2 terabyte version, both with 16 gigs of RAM. Now, this will allow you more multitasking opportunities than you had in the past with previous generations of the iPad Pro, or really any other iPad, because it is a bump up by at least, I think that 2020 iPad Pro had 6 gigs of RAM. So you're at least getting would be 33% more RAM than you are. Now, this is no slouch. I don't necessarily think that many people would have a great deal of trouble with using this device and being RAM limited. You also have the ability of where the software is now more robust than it has been in the past. And I think that is the trajectory of iPadOS, which I'll get into more in just a few minutes. For me, I thought the 1 terabyte version was the perfect kind of middle ground, so to speak, where I don't want to upgrade every year. I want to future-proof myself. And it gave me the high-end tiers of storage with the high-end configuration of RAM. But that leads me to the first thing that I wish I knew before purchasing the 2021 M1 iPad Pro. While having 16 gigs of RAM is very nice, my workflow does not consist of RAM-intensive applications where I feel like I'm pushing the iPad past its hardware capability, and I don't see the added benefit of having more RAM on this device. The apps aren't there, the ecosystem isn't there. Now, what I am not saying is that there is zero need for having 16 gigs of RAM on the M1 iPad Pro. But for my workflow, and I think probably the majority of people's workflow out there, their apps are not going to be RAM constrained where they need to have hardware where it is taking advantage of more RAM. Now, there are entitlements in iPadOS which allow certain apps to request more RAM from the operating system, but I'm not using very many of them. Or if I am using those apps, I'm not using them to the degree which they're being pushed past their limit. Let's talk about design and durability of the 2021 iPad Pro. In a world where every device is getting thinner and lighter, it's really surprising to me that Apple zigged here when I thought they would have zagged and they would have went with everyone else who's making devices thinner and lighter. The iPad Pro is about 63 grams heavier in the 2021 version than it was in the 2020 version. It's not necessarily, I would say, very noticeable, but in everyday situations, if you're holding a 12.9-inch tablet up in your hands, if you're looking at it, it does end up getting a little bit heavy sooner than you would expect it with the previous generation. Most of my usage centers in using the iPad Pro inside of the Magic Keyboard, and I also have the sleeve on the back which protects it from minor bumps and bruises. Now, while the iPad itself is durable, I would say that the white Magic Keyboard probably is not as durable, and this brings me to the second thing that I wish I knew before purchasing the 2021 iPad Pro and even the white Magic Keyboard. I don't regret buying it, but I do regret, I'd say, probably being as gentle as I have been, and it's still showing marks, right? No matter what you come in contact with, it's going to show wear marks or contact marks from that. I don't necessarily mind at this point anymore. I've kind of just given up on it. Now let's talk about that display. The new Liquid Retina XDR display on the 2021 iPad Pro is a really big deal. I, for one, find it kind of strange that Apple here only included the XDR display on the 12.9-inch version. Now, I'm kind of conflicted of why they did that. I think that Apple chose to exclude the XDR display on the 11-inch iPad Pro to create more pricing tension and feature tension between the 11-inch iPad Pro and the 10.9-inch iPad Air 4 to possibly make way for a new iPad Pro that is larger than the current 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Now, if you're like me and you love a larger iPad Pro, something like 15 inches, I think it would be very compelling from a use case perspective. If you want to see a video on that, comment down below because I do have a video planned for that. But either way, I am a massive fan of the Liquid Retina XDR display on the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. It really makes it perfect for gamers on the go. If you have productivity and pinch, this display is awesome to interact with. It packs a typical brightness output range of 600 nits when mixed usage, 1000 nits during full screen usage for standard dynamic range content, and 1600 nits when viewing HDR content. One of the exclusive features that has only been found on the iPad Pro, it hasn't made its way down to the lower cost iPads, is the adaptive refresh rate. This allows the operating system to dynamically refresh content, allowing it to have pristine pixel quality as well as save on battery life. Now, this brings me to the third thing that I wish I knew before purchasing the 2020 iPad Pro, because as much as this battery optimization is great, it does kind of fall flat for me. All of Apple's devices have really like a 10-hour battery life. I would say in my experience, my battery life has been less than that. I'd say it's probably been about 3/4 of that with daily usage of this device, and where the display is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 75% brightness. Now, that to me is, I would say, largely almost unacceptable, and I would say that Apple really needs to improve the power consumption of this device on that display. I think most of my use cases are probably where it's standard dynamic range content, and it's not where I'm pushing the display to a brightness where it should be consuming more battery life than what you would expect in a normal kind of standard use case, which I talked about a few minutes ago. One of the big things that people talked about when the iPad Pro first came out was blooming. I think there is an individual calibration to blooming, which certainly makes it worse for some people than others. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. It's not perfect. If I told you it was perfect, I would be lying to you. But is it, I think, bothersome to the fact where I would want to return the tablet? No, it's not. It's a great viewing experience. It's great to play games on, like I mentioned here a few minutes ago. It's great to view movies that are in HDR. I would rather much have the trade-offs of having this mini LED display the way that it is with blooming than having a standard LCD display like you have on the older versions, because the viewing experience, the contrast ratio, the dark darks, the bright brights are so much greater on this display than it is on another display. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect because of those trade-offs that you have when you implement a technology like this. It's not really that big of a deal. The iPad Pro has a 4-speaker stereo setup, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, which can dynamically change based on the device's orientation. Hold the device in portrait mode, and the left and right upper speakers push out mids and highs, while the 2 lower speakers handle the lower frequencies. Change the device's portrait orientation to landscape, and the top left and top right channels take on the mids, while the highs come out the lower channels push the bass. I really think that the speakers on the 2020 iPad Pro sound better than they did on the 2020 iPad Pro. As a matter of fact, I did a comparison, which I'll link up above. I am not one to think that the speakers sound dramatically worse. People who maybe have ears that are much more attuned to that type of nuance think that they do sound worse. But for me, I don't think they do. And I love the fact that I can turn this on and it fills up, this small room, it's a 10 by 12 room, with good sound, and it sounds good coming from the 2021 iPad Pro. Now, I'm not going to fill, like an auditorium, or I'm not going to fill like a dining room. It's not that big of a deal to me where it sounds dramatically worse, or even if it sounds, I would say, incrementally worse. They sound good. Both devices, to me, this device sounds better. 2 of the other new features making their way to the 2021 iPad Pro come in the form of connectivity. First, it's Thunderbolt 3. And Thunderbolt 3 is a transport protocol that allows data to be transferred in between your iPad and the applicable Thunderbolt 3 accessory much faster than it has been with USB-C. Now, with Thunderbolt 3, you can connect many different accessories to it. You connect docks, you connect high-speed storage, you connect displays. And ideally, it would solve a lot of problems that you have with connecting devices to your iPad to either pull data from or to get data onto. But unfortunately, its Thunderbolt ecosystem in respect to the iPad Pro is just not that mature at this point. This brings me to the fourth thing that I wish I knew. It's kind of disappointing that Apple is touting the ecosystem and the benefits of Thunderbolt 3 at this point with still not having that clear of a roadmap of where the device needs to go in order to support these features. If you want to connect storage to your device, you certainly can, but the data that you can put onto your device, I would say, is limited. You can't store data permanently offline on the device and access it through your iPad. If you want to connect your iPad Pro to an external display, there are limitations because your iPad Pro does not work in clamshell mode. You can only use mirroring for the iPad. So there are a number of limitations, which I think, fingers crossed, Apple will solve this year with iPadOS 16. It's a little bit of a disappointment, and I wish Apple would have maybe made more of a thoughtful effort here with adding Thunderbolt 3, maybe just tackling one or two different use cases at first before adding on a number of use cases. So that's just me. Let me know what you think about that down in the comments below. Now, if you came to me today saying, hey, Mike, I need to buy an iPad Pro, what do I do? I would tell you first, let's start with 256 gigs of internal storage. I wouldn't necessarily buy up into a 512, or I wouldn't go lower than 128. I would advise against buying into a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte iPad Pro simply because you want more RAM. Because again, I don't think the ecosystem is there. I don't think that the apps are there. It's just not really worth it. The iPad Pro and its workflows and the way that you need to use apps is really, I would say, a hindrance because you have to jump through many hoops that should be easy to do on any other machine, right? Like if you were using the iPad Pro, it's a reflection of the complexity of your workflow. And there's nothing wrong with having simple workflows. I use the 2021 iPad Pro in my professional day-to-day job. I use it here on the channel. I use it kind of for living. I do use it all the time, but I just don't think it's right for a lot of people because of the current state of it. Now, there are rumors that Apple is going to be refreshing the iPad Pro lineup this year. What are they going to do? Add the M2 chip? And if they do add, the M2 chip, what is it going to do? I mean, you are still constrained by the apps and the ecosystem of what you can do. Maybe they'll improve Thunderbolt in some way, but if I had to buy a new iPad just to get better Thunderbolt, I would be pissed. I mean, seriously, I would be pissed. I would be like, oh no, I'm not doing this. And basically, I feel let down having purchased the 2021 iPad Pro coming from the 2020 because it wasn't that much of an update. Hindsight's always 2020. No one's perfect. I'm not perfect. And listen, we do what we can do. But I can at least try and help you from making the same mistake that I did. If you have any questions, comment down below. My name is Mike. This is Tech 24/7 TV. Guys, I'll talk to you in the next one.